Former dancer Lee Shwin-Sing's life has so many dramatic twists and turns that if it were a work of fiction it would hardly seem believable. But his real-life journey from rural China to international ballet star and now successful Australian stockbroker made it ideal material for an autobiography. Mao's Last Dancer became a bestseller, and now in the next chapter of his remarkable life, Lee Shwin-Sing's life story is about to hit the silver screen as a feature film. Kirsten Murray reports.
When they took me from my family, I did not recognize this as honor. I did not see dancing as an opportunity. Nor could I imagine how far I might go.
He never could have imagined how far his life's experiences would take him. Lee Shwin-Sing's rags to riches journey from a remote Chinese village to the world stage of ballet has captivated nearly 500,000 readers. And now this epic tale has become an epic itself. Would you have anticipated the interest in your life story? Did you ever expect this outcome?
Never. I mean, how could I? I always thought it was self-indulgent to have your own story told to the world. So I never thought I could actually write my story or allow somebody else to tell my story.
The $25 million film version of Lee Shwin-Sing's life premieres in Australia tonight. But the story behind the movie began 48 years ago. As the sixth of 7 sons born to peasant parents, Lee Shwin-Sing seemed destined for a life of extreme hardship, until one day when his destiny changed.
I was 10, and we were sitting in this heatless, freezingly cold classroom. 4 men were suddenly led into our classroom. They were introduced to us as Madam Mao's cultural advisors from the Beijing Dance Academy, and they were there looking for kids to study ballet. Just as when they were to walk out the door, my class teacher hesitated and suddenly tapped on the shoulder of the very last gentleman from Beijing. She said to him, "Excuse me, sir, what about that one?" And that was it. That one was me.
From that day on, Lee Shwin-Sing was torn from his family and thrust into a life of grueling discipline.
Our training regime was so harsh. We would be just, basically you'd be breaking your back and torn your hamstrings to break down that pain barrier. And still at the end of the day, you have to stand in, you have to keep going forward and work hard.
What happened next has the makings of any film script. Ballet took Lee Shwin-Sing to America as a teenager, and it was there he discovered freedom and love. Upon reflection, how important do you think freedom is to art and to ballet?
Oh, incredibly important. You just cannot perform to your ultimate best if you don't have freedom in your heart. And I didn't have that in China. That was never existed.
But that freedom came at a cost when Lee Shwin-Sing made the heartbreaking decision to defect. Chinese officials barred the dancer from returning home or seeing his family for many years.
It was just really as though half my heart was cut out, and to make that decision. I guess what it was even harder to realize, maybe that decision will separate us forever.
In the Western world, Lee Shwin-Sing's career blossomed. Eventually, he was allowed to return to his homeland, and remarkably, decades later, he brought filmmakers with him.
So going back to China, seeing actually the filming, of my childhood in China, for a moment I've lost myself in my childhood, and I thought, is this really real?
Okay, ready to go?
But for director Bruce Beresford, the film would have stopped dead in its tracks if the right lead actor hadn't been discovered.
Obviously we had to have a first-class ballet dancer, and he had to be able to act a very complicated role in 2 languages, Mandarin and English. And I thought, does such a person exist?
And the incredible thing was, yes, I did have somebody in mind. So the first person popped out in my mind, the only person came out, that question was Chi Chao. Chi is the son of two of my former teachers at the Beijing Dance Academy. So I knew him when he was born, and I knew him when he grew up. I knew him when he fell in love with ballet.
Well, evidently they had to keep their hands up all the way through.
It was an advantage being able to sit down with Lee Schwinson, and I could make all sorts of notes about just the little details of everyday life that were a great advantage when I came to direct it.
These days, Lee Schwin Sing's everyday life is far removed from his past. After moving to Australia 14 years ago with his wife, retired dancer Mary McKendry, he swapped the stage for the stock market. And it was his company's financing of the film that allowed him to sidestep Hollywood.
I never saw my story to be a Hollywood story. And the one fear was people, maybe a typical Hollywood story might sensationalize my story even more.
What's the next chapter or next film instalment, perhaps, in Lee Schwin Sing's life?
I'm not sure. I think I sort of always thought, through my own parents, I always thought, if I could be half as good as them, I'll be a good father to my children. I'll be a good husband to my wife. Then I'll be a very happy man. Then I would have achieved a lot. So that's what I'm striving for.
Kirsten Murray with that report.